When I first started my inner work journey, these two books were the two that were recommended by a man named Jordan Thornton. He is a inner work specialist, and these two books honestly changed my life because once you start reading them, and I'm going to read the first page for you guys, but it's just going to open up your mind to be like, wow, this is exactly why I haven't been able to achieve the things that I've wanted to achieve or be able to take that next step in life. And it's really, really interesting. I'm going to read the first page. All right, so this is chapter one, Discovering Our Child Within. The concept of the child within has been part of our world culture for at least 2,000 years. Carl Jung called it the divine child. Emmett Fox called it the wonder child. Psychotherapists Alice Miller and Donald Winnicott refer to it as the true self. Raquel Lerner and others in the field of chemical dependence call it the inner child. The child within refers to that part of us which is ultimately alive, energetic, creative, and fulfilled. It is our real self, who we truly are. With our parents' unknowing help and society's assistance, most of us deny our inner child. This is the child within that is not nurtured, allowed freedom of expression. A false or codependent self emerges. We begin to live our lives from a victim stance, which very common nowadays, and experience difficulties in resolving emotional traumas. The gradual accumulation of unfinished mental and emotional business can lead to chronic anxiety, fear, confusion, emptiness, and unhappiness, which is look at the world today. Denial of the child within and the subsequent emergence of a codependent self are particularly common among children and adults who grew up in troubled families, such as those where chronic physical or mental illness, rigidity, coldness, or lack of nurturing were common. Which is very interesting when we kind of take that all in, because I was reading in the second book that I'll recommend, Codependence by Charles Whitfield again. In these books, it talks about how it's not just trauma that people have gone through to be qualified as a dysfunctional family. It's simply if one of your parents were too hot or too cold, or maybe they just didn't nurture you the way that you needed. Maybe they left you up to nature too much. And it's interesting because a lot of these different aspects of our childhood lead to codependence. And it's not our fault now, but what happens when you have this act of codependence happen, you have to remember that you have to pick a side of what's going to happen to you. And it's either going to be you take a martyr stance, which is the more aggressive, the controlling type, or you take a victim stance and you think that everything that happens in the world is someone else's problem, woe is me kind of attitude. And it really, the split really determines how your life is going to turn out. For myself, I was the third child. And in the codependence book, it's kind of funny. They talk about how like the first child is, I'm going to show this is the codependence book, Charles Whitfield. But it's really good. It gives a lot of good diagrams, and you're able to kind of see where you sit as like the like healing structure of things. It's got very, very, very good diagrams. Highly recommend. But in the book Codependence, there was a page that talked about the three different children in a family. The first one is actually going to be the most independent, because they're going to be the one who's most trying to succeed, the overachiever. And then you have the middle child, which is more of the delinquent, more of the one that tries to remove himself from the family. Very interesting. And then there's the third child, which is me. And the third child actually will become more of an adult child because it the third child will technically not get the majority of their needs met. And in doing so, you end up with this version of what they call an adult child, where their codependence is much greater than the other two, simply because, yeah, your needs weren't met as much. But it carries throughout life into adulthood, where you become reliant not just on getting your needs met, but on emotional regulation, on your ability to function, your reliance on your parents. Like it all still like carries through, and I just found that so interesting. So I'm going to read the first page of the codependence book just to kind of give you guys a little preview. Very interesting title. I might show you the second page. Talks about the inner life. All right, so codependence. Maybe I'll put the book up here. Codependence, a disease of lost selfhood. Codependence is a disease of lost selfhood. It can mimic, be associated with, aggravate, and even lead to many of the physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual conditions that befall us in daily life. We become codependent when we turn our responsibility for our life and our happiness over to our ego, our false self, and to other people. Codependents become so preoccupied with others that they neglect their true self, which is who they really are. I'm very guilty of that. I've been very guilty of that, where I become so preoccupied with other people's feelings. Usually in relationships, it happens where I take a secondary role and I always am trying to put their feelings ahead of my own, which is like, I mean, in a relationship, you kind of want that, but in table 1.1, I list 23 definitions of codependence at the end of this chapter. Clearly, codependence is not easily encapsulated. However, we can define it briefly as any suffering or dysfunction that is associated with or results from focusing on the needs and behaviors of others. And I know that it's not just me. I know that this is something that a lot of people deal with, where they are so focused on the opinions and what other people think of them. And a lot of it, we think it just comes from childhood, and it does, but like it's nice to just put a label on it to be like, it is due to codependence. And that was something I was searching for so long. When we focus so much outside of ourselves, we lose touch with what is inside of us, our own beliefs, thoughts, feelings, decisions, choices, experiences, wants, needs, sensations, intuitions, unconscious experiences, and even indicators of our physical functioning, such as heart rate and respiratory rate. I'm going to read part of the second page. These are part of an exquisite feedback system that we call our inner life. And that is going to be a continuing theme throughout this channel where I talk about the inner life. And I know I've only just kind of touched on the fact of these two books being so helpful when you start your inner journey, but they are honestly a stepping stone in a ocean of books that are available. And it's just, there's so much to learn about these topics, and these topics are just, they're so interesting because it's about not just fixing ourselves, but understanding the why are we this way, why we have been this way for some time, and why we haven't been able to fix the issues that have been happening. And that was my issue for so long. And I hate that I'm making this about me, because it's not about me. This is a journey that we're all going on. And it's just so amazing of a feeling when you're able to put something as a label to be like, yes, like that is why, that is the understanding that I needed. And I hope that throughout this channel and throughout reading these books that you guys are going to be able to also understand more about yourself, and you're able to learn that you aren't broken. You just had some things happen to you, and that's okay. We're all here to learn. We're all here to get better, but it does take the time, the energy, the focus to put that work in day to day to really try and not only fix yourself for the now, like for your current scenario, but for the future as well. If you are looking to have children, if you're looking to have a family, learning and fixing these different aspects of yourself and just having understanding. It's not about fixing. I keep on saying the word fix, but not simply fixing, but just being aware and understanding and just knowing that you're able to understand where these issues stem from, and be able to stop that, what they call like the cycle of trauma, but to really just like stop passing down those characteristics to our children. Later down the road, I want to go into how they say that mental health and depression and all of these things are caused by a genetic formation of genes and whatever. And I don't believe that's true. I simply think it's because we all have had some experience of, say, trauma or a dysfunctional family, which has caused us to be this way. And it's all about just gaining that understanding to not let it happen again. So I'm going to wrap this video up now, and I hope that you guys can take a look at getting these books, these two right here, and yeah, just start becoming aware of patterns and understanding that it's not who you are, it's just simply what you've been programmed to be. So but I'm going to end it there. We'll see you in the next one, and thanks for joining.